said, excuse me. Looked at me and I said, I can work a spotlight. And they looked at me and I said, oh yes, I can do it. And I can work a spotlight. And they said, do you know how to work it? Are you sure? I said, yes sir, I can do it. I can do it. I can work that spotlight for you. And they said, well, we don't have anybody else. You show up at such and such a time. And I said, I sure will, thank you very much. And I didn't get that ticket. So what I did was I ran outside and I jumped on the bus and I went downtown. Now my father was a motion picture machine operator, as was my grandfather. And at the time, my father was working at the Melba Theater. And I ran up to the booth and I said, Daddy, teach me how to work a spotlight. Real fast. Then he looked at me and he said, oh, well, okay, he happened to have an old spotlight, and he showed me how to do it. And I showed up that night, and from that night, my entire life changed. The most important people of my life I met in this theater. And I'm happy to say they're still my best friends, and a lot of them are here tonight. And I was up there working that spotlight for Pal Joey, and I will never forget it, and I just loved it. And then I worked the spotlight for Kiss Me Kate. Oh, and I just loved it, and I would just sit up there with stars in my eyes. And eventually, I was very shy, and I started talking. And then one time we were doing On the Town. And there was a part of a little old lady that had to run back and forth, like on the subway. Well, they couldn't get any little old ladies to do that. So Hatch said, honey, you need to come play this part. You want to do it? And I said, I'm kind of scared to be on stage. It's not a speaking part. So my first show was in this theater, and it was Pal Joey, Boots Carroll was in it, and Virginia May. Oh, it was just fabulous. And I got to be in that show. And eventually, what happened, I've always done well on people that didn't show up. So little roles like that. So then, don't forget, this was like in the 50s, they were doing Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Well, they had the help, you know, and back then, unfortunately, sad as it was, they blacked your face. So I was the maid. I didn't have a speaking part. I wasn't the head one. And I was just supposed to come out on stage, and they had a birthday cake for Big Daddy. And they were celebrating Big Daddy, and Virginia May Schmidt was Big Mom. And we had a scene where I was just supposed to come out with the 4 or 5 people and sing Happy Birthday to Big Daddy. Well, I can see that I started getting to be a little starstruck, because when I came out, I patted my heart. And I got carried away, and I said, we love you, Big Daddy. Big Daddy, especially Big Daddy. And I looked over in the corner, and there was Hatcher going. And I just fell in love with the theater, fell in love with the written word, heard, because I wasn't very good with the written word, but I remember falling in love with Tennessee Williams' The Last Menagerie, and where I did Look at the Lights, and I got to hear those beautiful words every night, and it was just incredible. And so I wanted very much to go to school, and Patch and Virginia May talked to me about perhaps going in the Junior Miss Alabama pageant. And I had written a couple of little silly sketches for the cast party. So I started writing little silly things. And so I went into, I did some little silly thing, and I went into the Junior Miss Alabama pageant and started that way. And sure enough, I'm embarrassed because the real Miss Alabama is here. But every year I would go in, and I would win a scholarship, which was terrific for me. And I'm sure all of you know that back then girls didn't do athletics. because, they didn't have scholarships for girls, but that was the only way I could get a scholarship was to do that. And I don't know, unfortunately, I am always reminded of my jaded past. I think I always went to get a laugh. I remember one year, I always seemed to fall apart at the bathing suit scene. I would do very well, and then something would happen, I'd be silly. And one year, I don't know why that would be hilarious, but I had Sea Rock City written on my competition, and I had on fins and a fear. And then I finally got serious, and I said, I gotta stop being so stupid. And we were down at the Tutwiler, and I was waiting, and I was going to be very quiet and very serious. And I said, just sit quietly before the bathing suit competition. You don't have to make everybody laugh. You don't have to be silly. Well, unfortunately. Right before the bathing suit competition, I happened to sit in a wicker chair. I didn't win that year either. From there, my career sped. But seriously, what we would do in those days, Hatch would take a bunch of us from the theater and we would do these little sketches around town. And there was some advertising, I think this might have been Lucky Advertising, had a party at one of the hotels, and we would go in and entertain. And so I went over there and I did a little sketch with some people. And a guy walked up to me and he said, Fannie, we're looking for a new girl to be on WBRC TV morning show with Tom York. And I said, well, that's very nice. I said, but I'm going to summer stock. So I wanted to be, a movie star and do all that stuff. And he said, come on up and audition. And I said, well, no, I don't think I want to do that, And I didn't really pay any attention to him. But the other thing that I used to do, that I will confess to you now about me wanting to be somebody, when I was going to high school, I was very, 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 I was an only child, and I was very kind of lonesome. The kids in school with me didn't get me at all. And what I would do, this was before this theater was so beautifully done, I would, like I said, I lived right up the street. I would come in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep sometimes. And there was a ladies' room downstairs, and I would unlock that window. And I would come by myself, and I would crawl through that window. And I'd come into the theater around 1 or 2 o'clock at night when no one was here. And I knew how to, of course, I used to work the lights. I knew how to put on the lights. And I would be in here for hours up on this stage, just singing and dancing and performing to no one, just having the most, the grandest time and dreaming of being a Broadway star. It never occurred to me that I'd actually do a show on Broadway. But that's why this stage is so important. And then when I finally, started doing those little sketches around town, the next year we did another one, and then there was another party, and they came up to me again and said, we really want you to come up and audition. And I said, I will, but I'm on my way to some other summer stock. I don't know what it was. So I went up and I auditioned. And I got hired.